The creative arts are everything, aren't they? They're kind of everything culturally that we experience.
Art is everywhere and it's part of our lives.
The whole industry ground to a halt for 4 months.
COVID-19 has meant that 2020 has been a challenging year for everyone, but especially those involved within the creative arts sector. Due to the pandemic, those within the entertainment industry, performing arts industry, film industry and music industry have lost their jobs, and some have had even to retrain to do so-called normal jobs to find a source of income. But why is it that the arts is looked upon in such a different light?
I think that arts is perceived, for some reason, quite negatively in society in terms of its value, in terms of its worth.
I would say the perceptions on value within the creative arts industry is people probably assume that either you get paid exceptionally well or you don't get paid at all. And there's a stark difference as well. Even when I was working in the television industry, there were people that were probably doing the same job as I was, and we were all on kind of slightly different pay scales, and it's almost who shouts the loudest gets the pay.
I think people perceive the arts as more like a hobby.
There's very few industries where you're expected to work for free for experience. I can't think of any others. Like I say, you've got plumbers, builders, yeah, they've got apprenticeships in these industries and they'll be on a low pay, but they will still get paid, whereas entertainers, actors, the amount of people that are just expected to work for free. Oh, you'll get some photographs off this. Oh, you might get an agent spotting you. You might get seen, you might get this. But essentially, you're working for free, and not just for free, you're turning down other work.
It's certainly an industry that is taken for granted. It's certainly a career that is not shown the respect that it deserves, and financially, it's not paid for the work that people do and the hours that people put in because of the self-employed thing. It's not given the respect that it deserves financially either.
The release of the Fatima poster highlighted the government's continual belittling of the arts. Fatima's next job could be in cyber. She just doesn't know it yet. Rethink, reskill, reboot. Despite MP Oliver Dowding stating on Twitter that the image was taken out of context and was a campaign aimed at all walks of life, the creative arts industry has had a constant battle on their hands, trying to prove that careers within this industry are essential to everyday life. It's been most prevalent during the pandemic by having Chancellor Rishi Sunak say, "Your career is no longer viable, find another."
The creative arts are really important. When we are children and we learn in the creative arts, it allows us to explore. It allows us to use our imagination to problem solve. Allows us to socialise and be creative with, our imaginations.
It bleeds into our lives one way or another, if we want it to or not.
If you just look in today's society, there are so many things that are related to the creative arts, whether it's something as simple as a poster or an advert for a product or a film or anything to do with social media. Even the trips to museums, art galleries, all of that is involving the creative arts. The music you listen to on the radio. So I would say that actually it's so important.
To me, storytelling is vital for us. We learn through storytelling, through whether it's a serious subject and trying to get something across, to whether in this situation we're in at the moment, entertainment is highly important. In the current situation with COVID, with the theatres closing down and productions put on hold, you can tell straight away there's this big feeling of depression. Everyone's looking for, they're desperate for something, an escape for the pandemic that we're under at the moment. And I just recently read that some of the big films like Wonder Woman, that lot, are now being released in December, and there's a huge positive outpouring on that. Possibly this could be something that people are looking forward to. So
everything that we have in our life, or lots of things that we have in our lives that we look for enjoyment from, have been created by a creative.
Essentially, the creative arts industry got the world through the first lockdown. From March 2020, video streaming platforms such as Netflix or Amazon Prime entertained the nation with box sets and films.
I think the creative arts have been massively impacted by the pandemic in 2020, as has every industry. Places like theatres, cinemas and production companies have all been forced to lay staff off or put them on furlough, which means that the actual output of the creative industries has been much, much less. The knock-on of this is that maybe once the pandemic is fully kind of dealt with, that these industries might struggle to re-employ some of these people before they actually are able to produce work. So for instance, a theatre might have to take a risk at re-employing staff, not knowing if anyone's actually going to come back to watch any theatre shows.
I just worry that those diverse voices that were beginning to come to the surface might get drowned out again, and I think there's a real danger of that. Meanwhile, you know, the 1.57 billion did not save jobs, and lots of people have either had their work cancelled if they were freelancers, or were put on the furlough scheme and sat tight for a few months wondering what was going to happen, but kind of looking at their peers who were freelancers who were slipping through the cracks of the self-employment scheme and so couldn't get access to money, and so feeling grateful that there was something. And then of course the furlough scheme just prolonged the inevitable, and countless people were made redundant, including myself. I was a programming and marketing manager at a small-scale theatre. Been there for 3 years and made redundant. There's no choice. The theatre closed, there's nothing to market and there's nothing to programme, and there's no money coming in from tickets, so they had to let me go.
I've had to get other jobs to stem the income. Obviously I've still got to pay the bills, got to pay the mortgage, and I've not had an income for most of the year. So beginning of the year I was working as a gardener, and then the green grass shoots shot up and I got a few gigs, I got a few weeks work over the summer. Then the rule of 6 came in and the summer finished. Those gigs have dried up. I'm now working as a delivery driver. It's hard.
The pandemic, I think, for a lot of people has highlighted how important the creative arts are, because how many of us sat there at home, locked down, looking for something to do and turned to, whether we realised it or not, the creative arts. You know, just listening to some music, you know, watching a movie, discovering a new TV show on Netflix, whatever it was. You know, we I think tapped into it. It's just whether or not people make that connection.
Within 6 months, Disney Plus attracted 50 million subscribers worldwide. It took Netflix 7 years to reach the same milestone after moving from DVD to streaming online in 2007. Video streaming platforms were not the only ones to benefit from the lockdown. Zoom calling prior to the pandemic had 10 million users, but then peaked at a massive 300 million by April 2020 alone. From children's parties to online dance tutorials, the world adapted to a new digital time, changing the creative arts industry forever.
But one of the things the pandemic has shown about the future of the creative industry is its adaptability.
It's down to us, is what we make of it. You know, if we, like I said before, if we generate that sense of community and we enable the arts to grow, you know, be flexible in how it grows, then it could be as good as it was, maybe even better.
I would love to see, you know, all the cinemas and the theatres and the arts museums all open again as normal, but I think it's going to take time to get there. Certainly when we're doing things such as production for film, it's going to take time to make sure that we can actually get that completed again.
Where we are in 10 years' time, I don't know. It's going to be exciting, but I hope it doesn't affect our job too much, because I just love doing this work.
The arts have got a difficult time ahead, but if anything, usually when times are tough, there's more to write about, and that's when we come back.
Collectively, the creative arts industry keeps the world entertained and continues to bring enjoyment and happiness to people's lives.
I love working in this industry. To me, it's not a job, it's not even really a career, it's a life choice.
The thing I like most about working in kind of creative arts and creative media industry is the people. all of the different people that you encounter professionally, but also the students and the people coming into it, the people who have an interest.
The creative industry for me is my way of expressing who I am. Ever since I was a child, I've been dedicated to music. You know, I hear things in music that I don't hear anywhere else. I see things in music I don't see anywhere else. And so for me to be able to use the creative industries as part of my job is amazing. I don't feel like it's a job.
The creative arts are so important and so much fun for people who get actively involved in them.
I grew up in a family with a tradition of storytelling. There's always stories to be told, and so that's what I am. I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories. I love listening to other people's stories and reading them. That's the thing I love most about my jobs.
I think you should do a job that you enjoy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, what is your life? You know, what are you doing? You know, I couldn't just be somewhere I'm not happy. I've got to be happy. Yeah. Music makes me happy.